Hello, friends. I am back as I had promised with technical analysis of interesting stocks, which I have shortlisted today to provide an insight to all of you. So I'll be covering quite a few stocks across sectors, and I'll do my best to provide the right insights about these. But before we do that, here's my standard disclaimer. Content shared on or through my digital media channels are for information and education purposes only and should not be treated as an investment or trading advice. Please do your own analysis or take independent professional financial advice before making any investment based on your own personal circumstances. All right. So let me show you the list of stocks that I want to cover today. Right. So I've got quite a bit of stocks, and I hope to cover them quickly, over the next 20-30 minutes. So let's see how much time this takes. I want to start with the couple of Adani stocks which have been showing some very interesting, I would say, a pattern, as such. So I want to first start with Adani Energy Solutions. So if you look at Adani Energy Solutions, obviously there was news in the stock, and then the stock really collapsed. After that, if you look at the stock has been consolidating in this particular range as such. If I were to kind of draw another line as well here. Now, what is interesting is if you look at the volumes, right? So it has probably been consolidating, and it's probably, for me, it looks like an accumulation zone because there have been quite a bit of, I would say, positive candles with a lot of high volumes, as such. And the stock has also gone up above the 200-day moving average. It is also very near the 50-day moving average. And if you look at the last few weeks of action, the stock has been consolidating in a very tight range here, right? So hence I believe that something very interesting might, kind of be seen in this particular stock. If you look at the daily chart, you'll see that after some heavy bit of action on the buy side, the stock has been consolidating or has been, in a very tight range with very, very low volumes as such. So that's typically a signal of, that the stock might actually show some volatility, in the next few days or weeks. So hence, I believe this is a very interesting stock, Adani Energy Solutions, to, keep a track of as such. So if it were to cross this particular line, it could rally up. Yeah, there's also a possibility that it could actually break this and keep going down. But looking at the way the stock has been consolidating, I think there is a higher probability of this breaking on the upside. Now, this is just an analysis. Again, it's not an advice for you to get into this, but at least you should certainly keep a track of this stock as such. Next one has a fairly similar pattern or price action. If you look at Adani Total Gas Limited, right? So if you see again, the stock, had collapsed, and then this looks like an accumulation zone where the stock is getting accumulated, as such, and then after a run up, which we saw with large volumes, we again see that the stock is consolidating in a tight range, right? So again, this, is probably an indication that we could see some, you know, action in this in the forthcoming days. Again, if this were to kind of, break out on the upside, we could see a probable, rally in this stock. This is purely based on the fact that I see that the patterns are saying so. But again, this is not an indication which side will go, but it's just a probability that I feel may happen. And if you look at it, it's floating above the 200-day moving average and also very near to the 50-day moving average. So both the Adani Energy Solutions and Adani Total Gas Solutions are showing a similar price action, and definitely, a couple of stocks which we should look forward to, right? Um, Now, if you go to Mphasis, So Mphasis, is been in this stage one, if you may call so, after it had, shown a fair bit of decline, after the October, 21 breakdown in all ID stocks as such, right? And then I believe that if we consider this as the breakout zone, and uh, there's also a bit of a pattern where you can say that this is probably somewhere like a double bottom, but not like very clear. But certainly this is like a breakout or a resistance zone. It broke out of it in the week of you know 18 December. After that, it kind of came and retested the particular support, and if you see, it has given a good uh, price action on the upside in the last week, in the previous week gone by. If you look at the daily chart also, the last 2 days of price action was very good, in terms of the price. The volumes could have been slightly better, but it looks like a good price action to me. And the stock is also floating above, now clearly floating above the 50-day moving average and also the 200-day moving average as such. So this is another stock which I believe one should, keep a track of. Now, the volumes don't really give a good, great picture here as such, but this is purely based on, price action as such. So this is another stock, which you could, keep a track of. The next one, Avantifeed. Avantifeed is, basically in the process industries on the agriculture side, as such. Um, so if we see this particular stock again, um, after the downtrend, it probably has come out of the stage one, and it gave a breakout in the week of 8th of Jan, right? And after that, it has been consolidating above the breakout zone. Hence, is again a good price action, right? So if you look at the daily chart, we see that when the stock was going up, there were very good volumes, right? And now when the stock is consolidating, the volumes are quite very, very tight. And again, when the stock was going up, the volumes were good. And when the stock is coming down, the volumes are very, very shallow. So this is a good sign. And it is also floating above the breakout zone. It has retested this zone, but it has not broken down below as such, right? And it is also above the 200-day and a 50-day moving average. So I believe this is one more stock that one could keep a watch out for. If it were to continue to go up, break out towards the upside, it could be one which could give some upside, though there will be some resistance that we could see again at around this level as such, right? So there is also some resistance here. So in around 650 to 700 zone, we could see some resistance coming in this particular stock as such. But if it were to kind of start going up, it could be something which could give us a good rally. So let's see. Next, Axis Bank. Very interesting price action in banks. We have seen some bit of a downtrend in the banks, over the last a few days and weeks as such. But if you look at Axis Bank on the weekly chart, it has kind of broken out of its resistance zone and gave some good price action in the week of 28th November and has been falling in a very shallow way. So I would say it's consolidating, in a tight range again. But the last couple of days price action looks very interesting to me as it is giving, it has given some positive price candles, if I may say so, but slightly below the 50-day moving average. But if it were to break out the 50-day moving average, I believe this could also be a very interesting price action to be seen in Axis Bank, as such. So keep a watch out for, for Axis Bank. It's above the 200-day moving average, but just below the 50-day moving average as such. Going next, Crayons. I'm not sure if many of you have heard about this company, but Crayons is a it's a it's a company which operates in the advertising marketing space as such. Very interesting price action. It had listed, I think, in the month of May 2023. After that, it has very clearly given a breakout in a week of 8th of Jan. And look at this price action. Very, very interesting, right? It is in such a tight range, over the last few 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And if you look at some of these, some of this price action with, the volumes are very good in the positive candles, right? So I believe this would be something which could give us some good price action over the next few days or weeks once were to, if it were to break out, right? So please keep a watch out for this stock. Again, there's no 200 moving average yet because 200 is not yet over since the stock has been listed, so you can't see that. But it has been consistently floating above the 50-day moving average over the last few weeks as such. So this I am I'm very interested in the stock, and let's see how this behaves. Again, one more thing to look at is after the positive price action in during the consolidation phase, the volumes are very, very shallow, right? So that's a good indication of something which might be showing a good price action in the coming days and weeks. So please keep a watch out for this stock as well. One next, Delhivery. I think most of you would be aware of Delhivery. It's a logistics company. Uh, and again, the stock was clearly in a stage 4, then it is consolidating in stage 1. It has recently kind of tried to break out of its resistance zone as such. Now, I was interested in the stock because I saw some very good volume during the breakout phase, and after that, it has fallen back, but the volumes are fairly shallow, right? So if you look at the daily candle, we will see that there is good there are good volumes when the stock is going up, and there are very, very shallow volumes when the stock is going down. And yeah, here you can see it's going up again, but the volumes are not very convincing, right? So we have to keep a watch out for this. If it were to again break out towards upside, this could again be a very interesting stock to look at and might give us a rally into a stage 2A or a stage 2B as per the stage analysis. Again, the stock is floating above the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average as well. So the 200-day and the 50-day moving average is a good indication for you to always have a check, whether the stock is floating above that or not, right? Okay. Um, let's now go to ICICI Bank. It's a little tricky one, actually. ICICI Bank, has been in a fairly good uptrend, over the last, I would say, 3 years plus, right? Uh, Almost 4 years now, actually, right? But if you look at the stock in the last few weeks, it tried to kind of break out of its resistance, fell back. It has now broken out of this resistance, again come back, but this time it has been able to hold its support zone, right? Now, the price action after this is not saying much because the volumes are not saying much, but I believe looking at the correction in the banking stocks and looking at the price action in ICICI, if the banking stocks were to rally, ICICI and Axis Bank, might take a lead because of their price action is saying so. Again, it is floating above the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. So let's keep a lookout for the ICICI price action as well. One more stock I want to talk about very interestingly, is Infosys, right? So Infosys, went through, I think, a bit of an issue after its, earnings in the previous quarter. And we can call it, it was in a a stage 4 when it fell down, and then in a stage 1, if you may call it so. But now recently I see that the stock has probably broken out of its stage 1 consolidation, as such. So if you see, let me zoom into this, right? So if you see this one here, it's broken out and it is floating above the resistance zone. Now, this zone is not, is not, it's not been in the zone for too long, and the volumes again not speaking too much. But if I look at on the daily chart, this breakout candles were, if you were to combine both these candles, and the volume was, fairly good. After that, the stock has been consolidating in a tight zone, right? So, hence I'm interested in the stock, and I believe that this might also give us some good price action in the coming days and weeks. So keep a watch out for Infosys. It's a large cap stock, so it obviously doesn't have a very, very large movement on a daily basis, but looking at the price action in the last few days, I feel this might give us a positive price action. So let's keep a watch out for this company as well. Next, Metropolis. Right. So Metropolis, if I look at the weekly chart, sorry, again, this was in a, in a consolidation zone, or an, you may call it an accumulation zone, uh, where, it went through a very clear curve, price action here, right? If you see, it went like this, and then like this, and then like this. If I might draw it, let's see if I can draw it. Like this, and then, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this, and something like this, and then like this, right? So it's not coming very clearly. Anyways, right? So basically, what I was trying to say is that the stock was in a very curved pattern, which is a good indication of a, of a stage or an accumulation of zone as such. So it is broken out of this almost, and with the not so great volume again. But I don't give it, the volumes sometimes are deceiving, so I don't give it a lot of importance, right? But they are a good indication when they're good. But if they're not good, doesn't mean that, it might not break out, right? But you just got to kind of keep a watch out for that. So this is another stock that I believe, is something which is interesting to look at. Sorry, I'm trying to see how do I get back my cursor. Right. So, and it has been an accumulation zone for quite a bit of time as such. So if it were to break out of the zone, it might again will get into stage 2. And it has been again floating above the 200-day moving average and very near to the 50-day moving average, right? So very interesting stock to keep a watch out for. Now, let me speak about Mahindra Holidays. So Mahindra Holidays is, in the hotel industry as such, of the Mahindra's group. Um, so this stock broke out of its resistance zone quite some time back, uh, you know, somewhere in the month of July, and been in a clear stage 2. It went up from about 303 all the way up to 470. Then it has come down, and now I believe this is forming a base, right? Now let's look at this base, right? Let's look at this base on the daily chart, right? So if you look at the price action here, on the positive candles, there were some good volumes, right? And on the negative candles, the volumes were not that great, right? So that's where I feel it is being able to hold it being able to hold its zone as such. It's consolidating, and if it were to break out of this resistance zone at some point of time, we should be able to see a good price action. But also, these candles itself, the white candles here, are itself showing some positive price action, in my opinion, for Mahindra Holidays as such. To keep a watch out for the stock. Again, it's floating above the moving averages of 200-day and the 50-day moving average as well. So, interesting stock to look at. Next, let me go to Quess. Very interesting price action, right? As you can see, in this particular analysis, I've been mostly shortlisting those stocks which have been coming out of their accumulation zone because I feel these could be stocks which could give, you know, a good uptrend for a long time, and you could positionally get into those stocks. These are not short term, a few days or just like a couple of weeks kind of trades. These could, pan out, over months and or definitely over multiple weeks if they were to break out, on the positive side, right? So yeah, so if you were to look at Quess, again, it was in this accumulation zone, if you may call it a stage one. It broke out with a decent volume. After that, it has been showing some good price action, tight price action here, and some of the positive candles are showing some good volumes as well. So I believe there is some bit of an accumulation which might be happening here. But we have to wait to see if this stock were to break out on the positive side. If it were, then this might also be an interesting stock to look at, right? If you look at the daily chart, you can clearly see some large volumes on the positive side, right? And when the stock is falling, the volumes are fairly shallow, right? So I'm using very simple analysis, nothing complicated, guys. I'm sure you have read about this, and I'm just kind of looking at the price action and kind of creating a watch list of stocks which could give us some good price action, over the next few days and weeks. So it's important that you just keep a watch list of these, right? And you keep on tracking as to how the watch list. You can also use something like something like an alert. So let's say if you were to say that, this I want to keep uh, uh, a track of the stock breaking out of this very small trend line. Let's say a very small trend line like this, and then keep a alert on this stock like this. Right, it's already broken out of that, but I'm just giving an example. Right, so you can add an alert, and so if it were to break out of this, then it will give you an alert, right? So that could be a good entry point, for you. Uh, Again, the stock has been above the 200-day moving average. As we see, the 200-day moving average just turned upwards. The 50-day moving average just turned upwards, right? So that's again a good indication. It is not. It is just above the 50-day moving average, if I'm right. But both the moving averages have just turned upward, which is a good indication, as well to keep a watch, for the stock. All right. So SBI Life is, from the insurance sector, the insurance stocks have been showing some very interesting price analysis, price action for the last, few weeks. And from those, I felt this is one of a very interesting one to look at. Again, it was in a very tight consolidation zone, for quite some time. It has broken out of the this resistance zone in the November time frame, and since then it has not done a lot, but the price action over the last couple of weeks looks interesting to me, as the stock has been showing some positive price action with some decent volume, right? So it might just be setting up for giving a rally in the future. So we should keep a watch out for this stock as well. if it were to break out on the upper, for stage two B as such, right? Um, Again, it's above the 200-day moving average. It is above the 50-day moving average, and both the 200-day and the 50-day moving average have turned upwards. Again, a positive indication. Trident, right? So let me now speak about Trident. Uh, Very similar. So Trident, as you can see, clearly broke out of its resistance zone with these two large candles, right? In the week of January 2024, as such. And look at the volume, right? Huge volumes, right? I mean, as compared to the volumes are huge. So what do these large volumes show? Clearly, there's some institutional activity happening here. These kind of volumes cannot be generated by retail traders, right? That means there is some institutional activity happening here, and that's how we should get interested in the stock. Now, after that, the stock has been consolidating in a very tight zone, right? If you look at the volumes also, let's go to the daily chart and look at it, right? So look at this price action and the volumes in these last 3 days, right? Large volumes, right? After that, the stock has been consolidating, right? And we've seen a bit of a uptick in the last 1 day and with a slightly larger volume as well. So hence, I believe Trident could be a very interesting stock as well to keep a watch for. Again, very similar characteristics. The 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving averages are below the price action, and the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average have started sloping upwards. So that's why I believe that you should keep a watch out, for these stocks as well. Now, this is a very typical characteristic of stocks which are entering into stage 2A, that the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average, they start to slope upwards, right? In fact, you will see they get into a very tight intermingling, right? The 20-day, 50-day, 200-day, they get into a very tight intermingling. And when the stock is ready to move upwards, they will kind of, you know, untangle themselves and they will start to slope upwards, as such. So that's what we're seeing here. So not necessarily that the stock will go up, but this is just an indication of what might be coming in the future. And this is the characteristic of stocks which have gone up, right? So the way to do this is to keep a watch now. This is just an indication. This is just some kind of I would say trigger that okay, I should keep on watching for the price action of this stock. So Trident is another very interesting stock which one should keep a watch out for. Okay. TV18. Um, Clearly this is in the media industry, not something which I have, kept a track of, but the price action of this stock really forced me to look at this stock. If I were to draw some trend line here once again, right? So if you see again, the stock was, if we can say, was in a accumulation zone here. Again, as you can see, it was in a very good curvature type of a price action, like this, and then like this, right? So it's very good curvature price action. And when it was breaking out of the stage one, if I may call so, there was a clear transition of volumes, and we can see some very large green candles, and large volumes with positive candles here, and then it is breaking out here, right? And I look at when the stock is falling, how shallow the volumes are, right? So that's why I believe that this could be something very, very interesting to keep a watch out for. After the large volumes on positive candles, here, then here, then here, then here, right? The price action it has been falling in a very shallow way. It's not been falling very aggressively, and the volumes are also very, very tight. Hence, I believe TV18 could be one another stock to keep a watch out for. Again, these are all red candles, so we'll have to wait for a positive trigger to happen. But the price action for me is very interesting. Again, The 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving averages are below the price action, and the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average have started to slope upwards as such. Hence, I'm suggesting that keep a watch out for TB18. Wipro. Very interesting analysis on this one. Now, this has been one of the stocks which has not, which has been lagging in the IT sector on the large cap side, right? As such. So, if you were to look at the price action, very long accumulation zone, as such, right? But look at how once it was coming out of its resistance zone, how are the volumes really shaping up, right? Just look at these volumes, right? The volumes are clearly rising up as such, right? And then the recent day price action is very encouraging. If you look at this, it has been showing some very good price action, and the volumes are also fairly good, right? So I believe Wipro might be setting up, for a good upward swing as such. So, but again, we have to watch and see. Also, it's again above the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average, as such. But the last day's price action was almost 11%, so it is a little extended. So I would suggest don't rush into this. See the price action. Maybe it will consolidate, or if it gives you a bit of a retracement, it might be something interesting to look at, for entry, if that works. All right. If you were to look at it on the daily time frame also, yeah, so if you look at all these positive candles, it has been showing some good volumes on all these positive candles, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what happened here. Maybe it was some good news or something. Very large volumes here. And then again, last few days, it has been some good price action with some good volumes as such as well. Great. All right. One last stock that I like to cover is ABCapital. I was not very, very convinced about this stock, but I thought let me cover it anyways. So ABCapital, is from the fintech side. It's from the finance side. Extremely large consolidation zone as such, right? So, um, but it's probably this is probably the end of the stage one of the stock, and I cannot be very, very sure. There was an extremely large price action as such, right? I mean, if you look at it, we're talking from 18 to almost like 23 to 5 years. So I not fully sure, but and the volumes are also not something which are giving away a lot. But anyways, so if you were to consider this as the breakout zone, then the stock has come and retested it. Now, this is the reason why I got interested in it, because I felt that the stock has come and retested its support in a good way, and then has again given some good price action in the last couple of weeks as such, right? So if we were to see that the stock is breaking towards the upside, this could be again an interesting stock to look at. It is also floating above the 50-day and the 200-day moving averages, and maybe these moving averages will just start to slope upwards. Also, let's look at the stock on the daily time frame. Now, this was one candle which got me interested. Just look at the volumes on this candle, right? I mean, it's extremely large. This was another candle where there was large price action, but nothing really happened after that, right? So that's where there's a doubt as well. But this is an extremely large volume, so definitely there's some institutional activity happening here. And after that, it is again beginning to show some bit of a positive price action, in this area as such. So this is one other stock which could be of interest for you to look at. Now, I had a list of other stocks as well, but I felt, it'll become fairly boring for all of you to kind of, listen to so many stocks. Um, so the stocks are the ones which I have, I'm keeping a track of. So I would suggest, you can quickly look at all these stocks, and take a note and make your own watch list, to see as to how do they behave. I hope this was of good interest to all of you. It's very difficult to just keep looking into the screen and speaking one way. I would love to do some, interactive sessions at some point of time. Once I have some decent number of people, who are listening to this to these sessions. But till then, I would really appreciate if you have any comments or if you have any questions, feel free to post them on my YouTube channel or any of my social media channels so that I can kind of address those queries, if any of you have. Um, and in the end, I would like to request each of you to see if you can uh, follow my social media channels. These are my various channels on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Telegram. So I will leave you with these. Thank you once again, and I promise you to keep coming back with such analysis more frequently than I've been doing so, as some of you have been requesting on some of the channels. So I'll definitely be much more regular and bring you some interesting analysis. Thank you, and I also look forward to any of your feedback. Thank you so much, and I have a good week ahead of market action. Bye bye.